Synaptic communication. Synaptic communication is a process by which nerve cells or neurons communicate. Here we have a neuron. A neuron consists of a cell body, or a soma, and has a nucleus. It also has dendrites which branch out and initially receive the stimulus. The cell body then goes into the axon. The area where the cell body and the axon meet is called the axon hillock. On the axon, there are myelin sheaths which provide insulation but also aid in a faster conduction of an impulse through the axon. The axon then divides into several axon terminals. When axon terminals come in junction with dendrites of another neuron, it is called a synapse, and here is where impulses are transmitted from one neuron to another. To better understand the way an impulse moves through a neuron, we must first understand action potential. A resting neuron has intracellular fluid which is higher in potassium ions, making it negative, a negative 70 millivolts, while the extracellular fluid is positive due to a higher concentration in sodium. When a stimulus is introduced into the cell body of a neuron, it must be strong enough to reach a threshold. A threshold can be anywhere between negative 55 millivolts to negative 60 millivolts. When the threshold is reached, sodium-gated ion channels are opened. This triggers action potential and depolarization. When the sodium-gated ion channels open, sodium ions go into the intercellular fluid of the axon, making it a positive 30 millivolts. At this point, depolarization is over, and sodium channels close. When depolarization is occurring, the neuron is excitatory. Now, when we go into repolarization, the neuron becomes inhibitory due to potassium channels opening and letting potassium out into the extracellular fluid of the neuron. An impulse moves throughout the axon through propagation with action potential. When the impulse reaches the axon terminal, it comes to a synapse. Here, there are neurotransmitters inside vesicles. Neurotransmitters are the chemicals delivered by the impulse. On either sides of the synaptic knob, which is where the axon terminal is, there are calcium-gated ion channels. When the impulse comes to the synaptic knob, these calcium-gated ion channels open and let all these calcium ions into the synaptic knob. Once they are inside, they trigger exocytosis of the vesicles and release all the neurotransmitters into the synaptic cleft, which is a space in between the axon terminal of the presynaptic neuron, which is the one delivering the neurotransmitter, into the postsynaptic neuron, which is the dendrite of the neuron receiving the neurotransmitter. The amount of time it takes an impulse to go from the presynaptic knob to the postsynaptic knob is called the synaptic delay. Once the neurotransmitter gets to the postsynaptic knob, it reaches ligand-gated ion channels or ionotropic receptors. Here, ligand must come in contact with these ion channels in order for them to open, letting the neurotransmitter in. Once this occurs, the whole process may continue on just as it started, and that is synaptic communication.